Let me go across now to Arsen Ostrovsky, who's also joining us. He's a human rights lawyer. Arsen Ostrovsky, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. 1 year since the Hamas attack on Israel. Is there anything you would like to remind the world today?
I mean, look, October 7th is, it's a day that has now forever been seared into our collective memories. It was a loss of Jewish lives that we have not seen since the Holocaust. Mothers were ripped from their children, children were ripped from their mothers, mass rape, torture, entire families burnt alive, an unspeakable pain and horrors that no one should ever see. But we are a strong people, we are a resilient people, and we have shown and underscored that in the last weeks and certainly over the last 12 months that there is no corner on earth that our enemies can hide from us, that we will find them, that we will do whatever necessary to defend our citizens and of course to bring back the 101 remaining hostages who are still being held captive in Gaza today.
What were you doing when the Hamas terrorists entered Israel on the 7th of October?
I was asleep with my family. It was 6:28 or 6:29, sorry, in the morning. We were in Tel Aviv at the time. We heard the red alert sirens, and we have two small children. I ran to grab one of my children from her crib. My wife grabbed the other one, and we ran to a bomb shelter, like millions of other families across Israel. And we have had to do that repeatedly throughout the last year. I've lost count how many times we've had to spend in a shelter, and that of course pales in comparison to what our brothers and sisters and countrymen in the south and now of course in the north have had to endure over the course of the last 12 months. It has been certainly a harrowing experience as a father, as a human being, having to try and explain to your children who are asking you, why are they shooting at us? Why do they not like us? It's no question that any parent should have to answer.
Yes. How different is life today in Israel than what it was a year ago?
Well, changed. On October 7th, everything for us changed. But in as fast as, I think that the world moved on, for us, for Israelis, we're still on the morning of October 7th, 2023, 12 months ago. And we will be there for as long as it takes to defeat Hamas, to ensure that this kind of heinous terror, wanton murder and massacre never occurs. And of course, until we bring back all our loved ones who are being held hostage, until then, we simply cannot fully move on with our lives.
Yes. Yes. No, also there seems to be no sign of de-escalation as well 1 year hence. I have to ask you then, what do you believe is needed currently to restore peace to the region?
In order to restore peace, we need to defeat Hamas to ensure that they are never able to do this again. We need to rescue and bring back all the hostages. We need to make sure that Hezbollah ceases firing rockets, which they've continued to fire every day since October 8th, one day after the massacre. Some 10,000 rockets now and 100,000 Israelis displaced. So those Israelis in the north must come home and must be able to do so safely and permanently. Hezbollah must be removed from southern Lebanon so they do not pose a threat. And I think ultimately the Islamic Republic of Iran must understand loudly and clearly, not only from Israel, they will understand it from us, they have understood it from us, but they must also understand it from the West, from the entire international community and from the world, that they cannot continue to inflame the situation, that they cannot continue to fight Israel not only through their proxies, but directly through firing ballistic missiles at us, sending the entire nation into bomb shelter. Until these elements are understood and until Iran ceases meddling and until Iran ceases fueling the flames of this conflict, this hatred, this terror, this violence, we will not see peace. Only after that understood can we actually find some semblance of hope, I believe.
What do you believe should be India's role then in re-establishing peace to the region?
India is an ally, India is a friend, India is also a democracy who understands the threat of Islamic terrorism. In the last week, for example, some 2.5 million people in Israel were in bomb shelter. That's before even the attack by Iran, the ballistic attack. This is the equivalent of, for example, a quarter of our population. A quarter of India's population is 400 million people. Imagine 400 million people in India had to run to bomb shelter. Or imagine just the other week when Iran sent hail of ballistic missiles at us, sending the entire country into shelter. Imagine if even one rocket was fired in India. How would you expect your government to respond? If your loved ones were being held kidnapped, how would you expect your government to respond? So I certainly believe India is an ally, and we would certainly hope and like to see that expression of support even greater, including at the United Nations, including in actions taken against Hamas and Hezbollah terror groups, and speaking out further against the Islamic Republic of Iran as well. India.
Yes, my final question to you, do you think that this war has also given the world a reality check on the fact that the UN needs serious reforms, Mr. Ostrovsky?
Look, normally we say there are two certainties in life, death and taxes, and in the last 12 months we can say a third, that the United Nations, which was founded upon the ashes of the Holocaust, has quite simply become the diplomatic arm of Hamas and Hezbollah, the two very terror organizations that seek to create a second Holocaust. The UN has been thoroughly disappointing. The UN has become, instead of condemning the terror and violence, it is justifying, it is excusing Hamas and Hezbollah. The UN agencies, including UN Women, instead of standing with Israeli women, they've abandoned Israeli women. Organizations like UNRWA, instead of actually working to support and actually provide humanitarian assistance, they are in bed with Hamas and committing these acts of terror and holding Israelis hostage, helping Hamas hold them hostage. The UN, unfortunately, was meant to be a force for good, is now an irredeemable force for bad, is an irredeemable voice on the side of terrorists, dictators and murderers instead of democracies like Israel. Look,
all right, Arsen Ostrovsky, thank you very much for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.